Hi, it's Candy Brown, your Pull No Punches accountability powerhouse, and I want to talk about that four-letter word that seems to paralyze us in every moment, and it's called fear. F-E-A-R. And in case you didn't already know, fear represents false evidence appearing real, or just the lies that we fabricate for ourselves over and over and over again, where we create this worry and this anxiety and this feeling of doom and what if this is going to happen and oh my goodness, and we get stuck. There is a difference between having fear show up as a way to indicate that something actually matters to you. If when fear, that notion of being scared, that notion of saying, oh, this is big, this matters, this means that there's something to risk, that's not a bad thing. You see, when that fear initially shows up, or that feeling of being scared, all that's saying is I'm in a place that matters. Because if it's not big enough to scare you, it's not big enough to grow you. The problem occurs when you allow that moment to become more than just a moment. When you give it fuel and fire and this script that you run over and over and over again in your head, because it becomes a story, which then that story becomes your truth. You see, when you keep playing over the worst case scenario, and when you let that worry and that anxiety start to build, you start to create something and give power to that little monster, that little voice, that Fred that's inside of you. Instead of saying, okay, something just showed up. Let me figure out what it is. I'm going to give myself permission. I get to figure out what this means. You see, we get stuck with words like I have to, I need to, I should. And that fear just keeps compounding because we've put this negative anchor on ourselves and we've put this weight on our shoulders that starts to beat us down. I need to do this. I have to get through this. I have to figure this out. This fear keeps showing up. Instead of embracing it, bringing it to you, and recognizing that it showed up for a very purposeful reason. When you understand that, then you can change that negative filter and start to let yourself believe that you get to make choices, that you get to go after the things that you want most. You see, that notion of being scared is just a fire that's being lit. It's like people that say, I'm afraid of public speaking. Which, don't get me wrong, we all have a fear because we're in front of people and we think they're going to judge us, and that we have these little butterflies that, or maybe they're really huge, boulders that are moving through your stomach. I will tell you that as much as I've been on stage and spoke in front of various audiences and people, I want to throw up before every time I speak. I want to throw up before I do this video. And here's the reason why. Because it matters, the message that I'm conveying. I'm scared because I want somebody to connect with my message. That means that's an opportunity for me to grow. That's an opportunity for me to push through, to push myself outside my existing comfort zone. Because if there's no fear, if there's not something that you're afraid of, then are you really being present, and are you really being in a place to serve others? So if it's not big enough to scare you, it's not big enough to grow you. But the choice becomes whether or not you're going to bust through that fear, bust through that moment, see what's on the other side, recognize that you have greater potential capacity and capabilities than you deem to give yourself and believe is possible. And do you let that moment where you're scared be fuel to move you forward? Fuel to make sure that you are being all that more intentional, being present, being purposeful, and being clear about the goals and the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So with that, I hope you'll recognize that fear is not a bad thing in itself. Fear is only bad when you let it paralyze you and when you give it power to become something other than what it is. When you notice that that moment is just an opportunity for you to truly tell yourself, yes, I can do this. It's your opportunity to say yes to yourself in a big way and yes to serving others. You'll find that that moment is something to embrace. So with that, I hope you find a way to scare yourself every day. Push yourself outside of that comfort zone. And it starts with you saying yes to yourself. With that, I hope you're destroying the noise. Go big to grow big. And as always, it starts with you taking action to gain traction. This is Candy. I love you, and I'll catch up with you soon.